Before the invention of the aeroplane, the world felt much, much larger. People had to travel on land or on water, which was a very slow and often difficult process. Imagine, just for a moment, wanting to go from America to Europe. This journey would mean spending weeks on a large ship, crossing the vast and unpredictable Atlantic Ocean. On land, the fastest way to travel was by train, which was a great improvement over horses and carts, but still limited by where the tracks were laid. Roads were not always good, and travelling through mountains or across deserts could take a very long time and be quite dangerous. The world was, in a sense, a collection of distant places, separated by long days of travel. The problems of travel without flight were numerous and significant. Sending a letter to a loved one in another country could take a month or more, with no guarantee it would even arrive safely. Businesses that wanted to trade goods with faraway lands faced immense challenges, as shipping was slow and expensive. If someone fell ill while travelling, getting them to a doctor or back home quickly was nearly impossible. The world was connected, but the connections were weak and slow. People dreamed of a faster way, a way to soar above the obstacles of the earth. But for centuries, this remained only a dream, a fantasy found in stories and myths. This slow pace of life shaped how people saw the world and their place in it. For most individuals, the idea of visiting another continent was as far-fetched as visiting the moon. Their world was their local town, their state, or perhaps their country. News from distant lands arrived weeks or months after the events happened, making the world feel disconnected and remote. The desire for flight was not just about speed, it was about bringing people closer together, sharing ideas more quickly, and exploring the unknown corners of our planet. People looked to the birds with envy, wishing they could also have the freedom of the skies. The need for a new mode of transportation was clear. As industries grew and nations became more interconnected through trade and politics, the limitations of ships and trains became more apparent. Armies needed to move soldiers and supplies more efficiently. Scientists and explorers wanted to reach remote locations to conduct their research. Families spread across the globe longed for a way to reunite more easily. The stage was set for a revolutionary invention, one that would conquer the air itself. The world was waiting for someone to solve the ancient puzzle of flight, and two brothers from Ohio were about to step forward to accept the challenge. In the city of Dayton, Ohio, lived two brothers named Orville and Wilbur Wright. They were not famous scientists or wealthy inventors. They owned a simple bicycle shop where they fixed and sold bicycles. This work, however, gave them a unique set of skills. They understood mechanics, balance, and how to build light but strong structures. The brothers were quiet, thoughtful, and worked together perfectly as a team. From a young age, they were fascinated by the idea of flying. A toy helicopter their father gave them sparked a lifelong interest. They read everything they could find about flight and the attempts others had made before them. The Wright brothers knew that many people had tried and failed to build a flying machine. They studied the work of others carefully, learning from their mistakes. They realized that the biggest problem was not just getting into the air, but controlling the machine once it was there. Birds, they observed, did not just flap their wings to go up. They constantly shifted their wings to stay balanced and to turn. The brothers believed that this control was the secret to successful flight. Their goal was to build a machine that a pilot could steer in the air, just as a rider steers a bicycle on the ground. To solve the problem of control, the Wrights developed a brilliant idea called wing warping. This system allowed the pilot to twist the ends of the wings slightly, changing their shape. Twisting the wings would change the air pressure on them, causing the machine to roll to the left or right. This gave the pilot the ability to balance the craft and make turns. To test their ideas, they first built kites and then large gliders. They travelled to a place called Kitty Hawk in North Carolina because it had strong, steady winds and soft sand for landing. They flew their gliders hundreds of times, learning how to control them in the air. Through these countless glider tests, Orville and Wilbur became expert pilots. They added a movable rudder to the back of their glider to help with steering. They also realized that they needed an engine that was both powerful and lightweight, but no such engine existed. So with the help of their shop mechanic, Charlie Taylor, they designed and built their own. It was a small, simple gasoline engine, but it was exactly what they needed. By the end of 1903, they had all the pieces: a strong and light airframe, a system for control, and an engine to provide power. They were finally ready to attempt the impossible. The historic day was December 17th, 1903. The air at Kitty Hawk was cold and the wind was strong. The Wright brothers knew it was a risky day, but they were determined to try. They laid down a long wooden track on the sand to help their machine, which they called the Flyer, take off smoothly. They flipped a coin to decide who would pilot the first attempt. Wilbur had won the toss on a previous unsuccessful attempt a few days earlier, so this time it was Orville's turn. He lay flat on his stomach on the lower wing, his hands on the controls. Wilbur helped to steady the wing as the engine roared to life. This was the moment they had worked toward for years. At 10:35 in the morning, the Flyer began to move down the track. Wilbur ran alongside, holding the wingtip, until the machine lifted into the air. For the first time in history, a powered, heavier-than-air machine flew under the control of a pilot. The flight was not long or high. It lasted only 12 seconds and covered just 120 feet, which is less than the wingspan of a modern jumbo jet. But it was a true flight. Orville managed the machine, keeping it balanced in the windy conditions before it landed gently on the sand. The few local men who were there to witness it were amazed. They had just seen history being made. The invention itself was a marvel of simple engineering. The Flyer was made of wood and fabric, with two wings stacked on top of each other. The pilot lay on the bottom wing and used a hip cradle to operate the wing warping system. By moving his hips from side to side, he could twist the wings and control the machine's roll. A lever in his left hand controlled the front elevator, which made the plane go up or down. The small, four-cylinder engine turned two large propellers that pushed the aircraft forward. It was the combination of these three things: lift from the wings, thrust from the propellers, and control from the pilot, that made powered flight a reality. The brothers were not satisfied with just one short flight. They made 3 more flights that day, taking turns as the pilot. Each flight was a little longer and more controlled than the last. The 4th and final flight of the day was the most impressive. With Wilbur at the controls, the Flyer stayed in the air for 59 seconds and travelled 852 feet. After that flight, a strong gust of wind caught the machine and damaged it, ending their flying for the day. But it did not matter. Orville and Wilbur Wright had succeeded. They had solved the puzzle of flight and opened the door to a new age for humanity. After the success at Kitty Hawk, the world did not change overnight. Many people did not even believe the news at first, but the Wright brothers continued to improve their aeroplane. Within a few years, they were making long flights, circling over fields for more than an hour at a time. Soon, people all over the world began to see the amazing potential of their invention. The aeroplane quickly went from being a curiosity to a tool with serious applications. The first major use was for military purposes. During World War I, just over a decade after the first flight, aeroplanes were used for spying on enemy positions and later for fighting in the air. The impact on travel and society was rapid and profound. After the war, companies began to see the commercial possibilities of flight. The first airlines were started, offering mail services and then passenger travel. Journeys that once took weeks by ship could now be completed in a matter of days and eventually hours. The world suddenly felt much smaller and more accessible. People could visit distant relatives, explore new countries for holidays and conduct business face-to-face across oceans. This new mobility connected cultures and economies in ways that were never before possible, fostering a more global community. Today, it is difficult to imagine our world without aeroplanes. They are essential to our modern way of life. Every day, millions of people travel by air for work and leisure. International business and tourism depend completely on a fast and reliable network of flights connecting cities all around the globe. Aeroplanes carry not just people, but also valuable cargo. Fresh food, medical supplies and mail are flown across continents daily, supporting global trade and saving lives. When natural disasters strike, aeroplanes are often the first to arrive, bringing doctors, rescue teams and essential aid to those in need. The legacy of the Wright brothers is all around us, every time we look up and see an aeroplane streaking across the sky. Their simple invention, born from curiosity and careful work in a bicycle shop, has fundamentally reshaped human civilization. It has changed how we travel, how we trade, how we fight wars, and how we see our planet. The aeroplane has brought us closer together, expanded our horizons, and given us a new perspective on the world. The dream of flight, once a fantasy, is now a routine part of daily life, all thanks to the vision and persistence of two brothers from Dayton.